All right, guys, we are so close to the actual Boston Massacre. First, we're going to talk about the night that it happened, and then some of the effects of the event itself. And then following that, we're going to go over a few interpretations of the event and how they affected colonial presuppositions of the event. So, let's talk about the night of March 5th, 1770. See, there was an angry crowd of Bostonians who took to the streets to express their frustration. There were rumors swirling around that the Redcoats were going to cut down the famous Liberty Tree. See, this tree was where angry protesters had nailed anti-Stamp Act propaganda into the tree. It was also a very famous colonial effigy site. There was a copper-plated Tree of Liberty plaque right in the middle of it. So a crowd of 50 to 60 Bostonians surrounded the barracks of the 29th regime, throwing anything they could find at the building. There was a single soldier stationed outside the barracks, and he became the focus of the angry mob's attention. A loyalist informant told a British captain, fearing for the single soldier's life, of the soldier's predicament. This captain then sent 7 other soldiers to his aid. And as the soldiers arrived, they began to stand in to help the single soldier. Thomas Gage, a commander in the British Army, said the colonists were provoking them. He said they were using the most opprobrious language and were throwing ice, rocks, oyster shells, and snowballs at the soldiers. Even snowballs filled with ice, snowballs filled with rocks, and snowballs filled with oyster shells. The mob kept harassing the soldiers and were literally daring them to open fire. They started to overtake the British soldiers, and whenever that happened, a single British soldier discharged his musket. There are varying reports as to what happened, but in the chaos, someone screamed "Fire!" against the commander's command, and the soldiers opened fire on the mob. 3 crowd members were killed instantly, and 2 died of injuries sustained later. As soon as the firing was over, Lieutenant Governor Thomas Hutchinson arrived on the scene and ordered the troops to go back to the barracks immediately. He promised the mob that justice would be dealt accordingly. This occurrence was caused by and also fueled an immense amount of tension between the colonists and the British soldiers, especially in Boston. The soldiers were arrested the next day and put on trial. But here's where the story gets crazy. They were defended by none other than future President of the United States, John Adams. John Adams won acquittal for 6 of the 8 soldiers, while he was defending them on the basis that they were acting in self-defense when the event happened. The 2 soldiers that were charged weren't charged with murder, however. They were charged with manslaughter, but served no jail time because they were able to get off with branding of their first offense. So, before we go into the very last part, which is the influence on the colonies, I'm going to have you guys, after learning about what actually happened, do a small little activity on interpretations in history.